Today I'd like to introduce the John Deere 1590 no-till drill. This is a drill that's owned by the North Cache Conservation District, and the opportunity here is to be able to illustrate the functionality of this drill, how it works, how it operates, so that you can become a little more familiar with it as you prepare your no-till journey. Let's take a minute to walk with me through each of the major components and functionality of this particular drill. When you set up this drill to transport, so that you're going to take it from one farm to another farm, or from where the conservation district has it stored back to your farm, first we need to disengage the augers that are picking up the seed and delivering seed. The auger engagement where they're picking up seed happens right here, and you rotate this wheel to disengage two pins that catch that sprocket that turns the sprockets inside the drill. So now that that's disengaged, we can hook onto it with a tractor and haul it down the road back onto your farm. Now let's take a look at the opener and closer where all the action happens with the seed coming into the soil. This main arm, we have an arm for each row where the seed is planted. On this opener arm, we have a single disc opener with this drill, as opposed to a double disc opener on some of the other drills that are available. The single disc opener is on a slight angle, and it cuts through the residue, allowing the seed to drop directly in contact with the soil. And that seed comes down through this boot into a boot adjacent to that opener. And that boot drops it right into the soil. Once the seed is in the soil, the next functional tool is this press wheel. And the press wheel puts some down pressure on that seed and soil to make sure that we have good seed to soil contact. The closer is again another wheel on a slight angle that has the ability to then kick additional dirt over that opening to make sure that we have that opened row completely closed with soil. Here we have a tensioner spring on that closer wheel that has 4 adjustments for tension that you can adjust that up or down depending on how much pressure you want on that closing wheel. This particular wheel is our depth gauge and allows us to adjust right here how deep we want that seed to be placed. So I can raise it up. Raising the depth wheel up lowers the opener and lowers the boot that's dropping the seed in the ground, thereby creating a deeper seed placement. Or if I lower that wheel, yeah, there we go. Now it raises the opener up and allowing a more shallow depth for seed placement, which would be the case for smaller seed like alfalfa or clover. When we're considering the function of a drill, there are really 4 main aspects that we need to consider. Number 1, the opening of a seed channel. And that's what the disc opener, its primary function is to open that seed channel and create an opportunity for seed to come into direct contact with the soil. So that's number 1, seed opening, or the seed channel opening. The second purpose is to be able to deliver that seed and place it at the appropriate depth in the soil. Step number 3 is to firm up that seed to soil contact. And that's what the press wheel does. And so we want to adjust the tension on that press wheel to get an adequate firm seed bed. The fourth and final piece is to close up that seed channel. And that's what the closing wheel does. Again, so then when we're adjusting our drill and getting ready to go, and we set the drill down, we want to make sure that we've got the seed depth wheel adjusted properly, the tension on the press wheel and the tension on the closing wheel all adjusted properly. Once it sets down, we need that to all be level or in the same plane with one another. As you look at the side level, how level the drill is from the side view, in order to adjust that for your tractor, that adjustment is made right here. Depending on how high or low the hitch is on your tractor, you may need to move this hitch up or down in order to achieve a level, stable setting for your tractor and for the drill. While we're talking about tractor, bear in mind that this no-till drill is about 10,000 pounds. And so you're going to need somewhere around the neighborhood of 110 to 120 horse tractor to be able to effectively operate this drill. This particular drill is instrumented with two different seed boxes. A small seed box up front is what is instrumented for smaller seed, like alfalfa or clover, that is planted at a much lower rate than some of the larger seeds that we have. The back seed box is a much larger capacity seed bin, and it is for your larger seeds like small grains, peas, and other large seeds that we would plant. Here on the front you see the different seed tubes coming down from the small seed box. And down here we have the larger tubes coming from the large seed box. And so as the drill is being pulled forward, the sprocket inside the seed box is dispensing the metered amount of seed into the distribution tubes, small seed and larger seed. In the event that the seed tube should become lodged or plugged, it's really quite easy to be able to clean that out. The small seed box is just friction fit, so you just pull that tube out of the slot, and then when it's cleaned out you can just slip it right back in there. And for the larger seed tube, it just has a little catch and it slides off in this way and can be pulled out and serviced. Pretty simple. Here on the right hand side of the drill, we have a very small incrementing dial. This is an acre meter counter set to monitor or measure the amount of acres that you're covering with your drill. But this is where that's located and how you can track how many acres you've covered. One of the cool features about the John Deere 1590 is that this drill has an active down pressure system. And that is that hydraulically, and using a couple of hydraulic rams, we're going to put additional pressure on that seed opener and press wheel mechanism. That pressure is controlled by this hydraulic manifold right here. This red lever is your lockout mechanism. So when we get ready to transport, we want to lock that out so that no hydraulic fluid is moving to the rams, causing down pressure on that disc opener and press wheel system. When we land in the field and we're ready to go, we would then open that lockout lever and allow hydraulic fluid to pass to those rams, giving us that active down pressure that we need to ensure a consistent pressure as we're cutting through the residue and planting our crop. The specific amount of pressure that we're putting on that mechanism can be adjusted right here in the front with these adjustment knobs. The magic amount of pressure, or the target that we have, is to achieve somewhere between 350 and 500 psi of down pressure on the cutting opener and press wheels. As you've arrived to the field and want to make the adjustments on your active down pressure, you'll need to actually load your seed bins before you do this to make sure that you've got your full weight on board. Right here we have our larger seed box. When starting out, I would probably add just a couple of 100 pounds of seed to start and drill maybe 5 acres and come back and check and make sure that we're dispensing the appropriate amount of seed. If not, then we'll make some fine adjustments to our seeding rate down on the front of the drill. Again, this is the large seed box for small grains and larger in size of seed. We also have the smaller seed box for smaller seed, alfalfa, clover, that size of seed that dispenses at a lower rate. Once you've got seed in your bins and you're still disengaged in terms of your feeder wheel, we'll talk about that in a little bit, we want to be able to set the openers all the way down and drive forward just a small distance to make sure that everything is engaged and those press wheels are at full depth into the soil. At that point, you'll come out and check your down pressure gauge, make sure that your lockout is open, and you can adjust your pressure. As that comes up to your target pressure between 350 and 500 psi, then you'll want to raise the openers out of the ground, lower them again, and proceed forward another small distance, and then recheck your pressure. If you need to make additional adjustment, make those adjustments and repeat the process, raising them out of the ground, lowering it into the ground, and pulling forward a small distance to make sure that we're at a steady state. When making your fine-tune adjustments to the pressure, this back nut is a lock nut to lock our pressure adjustment. So loosen that, then make your pressure adjustment and tighten up the lock nut once again. This particular knob is for a bypass control. Many hydraulic systems historically were an open hydraulic system that required a little bit of hydraulic flow to be passing through the system all the time. And so you would make that adjustment right here according to the manual. If your tractor has a closed hydraulic system, then you would also be able to close this off completely, allowing for that bypass. Here on the right side of the drill, we have the seed metering adjustment, which is how we adjust how many pounds per acre of seed we're putting on with this drill. The manual adjustment can be made by turning this crank here on the left, but this particular drill is also instrumented with an electronic adjustment. That's this little motor right here that will adjust it automatically from the cab using an electronic motor. If I'm going to adjust this, bear in mind the numbers that run across the face correspond to the seed chart in the manual. In order to do that manually, I have to disengage the electronic motor by pushing back. It's got a spring-loaded disengagement. And so I just push straight back. Then I can go ahead and adjust my seed rate. This is a very coarse adjustment, meaning that it's going to be close, but it may not be exact. If I'm planting large size seed, I need to move that sprocket down just a little bit so that there's room for that larger seed. That is done with this adjustment here. For small grains and smaller seeds like flax, clover, alfalfa, I would be in the top setting. Small grains, probably the second setting, and then larger seed like peas, I would be in the next setting down. Allowing that cup to open up just a little bit so that that sprocket can spoon out the seed. With that in mind, it may be necessary for you to consider doing an additional calibration. Now that we have seed in our drill, the drill is calibrated according to the manual, and we've got our down pressure set, Our drill is leveled up on the tractor. We're ready to engage the planting wheel. This is the engagement sprocket. Again, we simply rotate it, driving those two pins in, which engages the drive sprocket to the wheel.